Hello everyone. Welcome to this sweet little speed draw video of this angel devil combo character. She is a commission piece from one of my patrons. Shout out. She is made on Photoshop, and I will get to how she was made in the process in a second, but I want to mention that if you want a free print, you have until the end of this month, March 30th, to sign up for the video club on my Patreon to get a free print in the mail. So you have until March 30th of this year, of this month, to get your free print. So don't miss out. I'd love for anybody and everybody to go sign up and get a nice little surprise letter in the mail, because we don't get enough fun stuff in the mail anymore. Like, I remember back in the day getting my, teen Vogue magazines in the mail and, Cosmopolitan, whatever it might be. Like, it was so exciting when you look in your mailbox and you see something that's, just for fun. I also want to mention that my commissions as of right now are still open. I have 3 spots left, to be exact. And if you're wondering what a commission would look like, it looks exactly like this character in this video. So this character that you see me drawing right now, she was a commission piece from one of my patrons. And what I asked for everyone to do who was ordering a commission is to give me 3 prompts. So the first one was to pick a character from a list that I have. So the list was angel, devil, human, or elf. And then the second prompt is to give me a vibe. So a vibe could be 90s or even cherries or whatever you want the vibe to be, sassy, ghetto, I don't know, you choose. And then the third prompt is a color palette. So this person who ordered this commission, her prompts were angel devil combo, which I love, celestial, and then purples of any shade. I hope I got that right. So if you want to sign up for a commission for yourself, all you have to do is go over to my Instagram and DM me. I'll put the link for my Instagram in the description below. Hopefully by the time you watch this video, there will still be spots left. So for this piece that you see me drawing here, I was so thrilled to do this combo. When she said an angel devil combo, I was like, why have I not thought of that myself before? But I was going to say that she threw me for a loop by asking for a purple color palette, because in my head, that's not usually a color palette that I'm drawn to. But I went back through my own Instagram and looked at some of my more recent drawings, and I have a lot of purples going on in my recent drawings. So I think that's actually just a testament to the fact that I've been really pushing myself and getting out of my comfort zone a lot. I like to think that I tend to go for more of pinks and yellows and teals. I really love a bright color palette that feels jewel toned. That tends to resonate with me, but when I was doing this piece and putting it all together, I found that purple can actually be really interesting. It can be really bright. It can be really glowy. That's kind of weird to say, but when I added the highlights in her hair, it really made that color pop. So I also made the decision to make her horns and her halo this golden color, because gold, yellow and purple are complementary colors on the color wheel. And I just think it turned out really, really nice. As you'll see later in the video, her clothing, her shirt and her choker, I made them this really deep periwinkle color, and it just didn't feel right. So I ended up changing it to being this really pale yellow color. In fact, it's kind of hard to see in the video, but I actually made it granulated, so it kind of looks like it's even shimmery and sparkly. I think it turned out really, really well, even though purple is kind of out of my area of comfort. So just a couple of weeks ago, I actually did a live stream of a regular draw of a Photoshop piece that I did. The nice thing is that the people watching the video told me later that they really appreciated me walking them through the Photoshop process, or at least how I use it to draw a portrait. And I really wanted to go over with you guys step by step how I make a portrait on Photoshop. I do not claim to be an expert because once you think you know everything in Photoshop, there's still so much more that you don't know. So I stand by that, but I also do feel like I have learned so much over the last year. A lot of it's self-taught, a lot of it is research, a lot of it is just messing around, sometimes making mistakes, happy accidents, those types of things. And I really do feel like I have a decent understanding of how to paint and draw on Photoshop. So the first thing that I do when I'm doing a portrait is when I open up a new project, I will transfer a already drawn picture from my notebook into Photoshop by just taking a picture of it and just airdropping it to my computer. Once that's there, I add another layer on top of that photo and I trace it out. And then I can just delete the layer of the photo that's underneath the line art layer, if that makes sense. So I'm just kind of tracing my own work. It makes it a lot easier to do it that way. I don't have to draw directly onto Photoshop, which I do sometimes, but I find this to just be the quicker, more enjoyable way. The second thing that I do is I create the background. So the background is also going to be on its own layer, but that's going to be underneath the line art layer. I hope all of this makes sense because Photoshop is essentially just a bunch of layers of different colors and lines and everything that you can see on top of each other. And you can eliminate layers and you can move them. And as you can see in the video too, on the bottom right-hand corner, that is where I have my layers box. And it really helps me keep everything organized. Sometimes I will hit the little eyeball icon so that that layer goes away and it becomes invisible for a second and I can see what's underneath. So when I go to create my background layer, I just use the paint bucket and just dump a color in the background. I know that this is probably going to change later on in the drawing, just depending on how the colors are looking together. And then after that, I take the lasso tool and I draw a line around the whole character and just pick whatever I think the basic color is going to be for her hair, or even just the color that looks best with the background layer. Once I do that, then I go in and I take the soft edge brush and I make it really, really big, and then I lower the opacity in order to color in the skin because that allows things to stay really soft and give her skin a bit more of like an airbrushed feel. And I always start, well, not always, this is actually something I've started doing recently, is I begin with the lightest color on her skin tone and then use the more orangey reddish color to rim the face and put the shadows around her cheeks and around her eyes to just give her skin more depth and dimension. So this is where I personally have to be very careful because I can really overdo it with the skin. If you notice, I often flip the canvas horizontally. It's a good way to check yourself to make sure everything is looking good, essentially. That you're drawing your character, it should still look good, pleasing to the eye, whatever, when you flip the canvas horizontal. So sometimes when you draw a face, like try it for yourself, take a picture of it and then flip the canvas, and sometimes you will be either pleasantly surprised or very disappointed because you realize that you have to make quite a few more adjustments. So then after that, I go in and I start to render in the hair. This is also on its own layer. So I have started doing this new thing actually, well, especially with this piece, where I do the lightest color first. So you can see I did a really, really light purple all over the whole hair. And I did use the lasso tool to block in the hair completely with that really light color. So this is the fun part, is I got a shade of purple that was a little bit darker, a little bit more in a bluish tone, and I go in with a round brush and block in essentially like the negative space so that you can see the highlights underneath. So I use that darker color to make the highlights pop on the hair. So then after that, then I did take a darker color and start making shadows on the hair, but later I decided to just go ahead and do that when I do the shadows for the face and for the whole body. Then the next part I do is the eyes. I think this is really funny. A lot of people compliment me on how I draw eyes, and I think it's hilarious because I actually don't really like the way I draw eyes. I'm not always very happy with how they turn out. I actually really love to draw lips. I think lips are very expressive. I think you can do so much with them, make them shimmery, make them pillowy. But with eyes, I tend to, the whites of the eyes actually typically aren't hard white. They are more of like an off gray or an off peach or skin tone color. So I always fill in the whites of the eyes with a bit of like an off gray, and then I fill in the irises with a color. A lot of times the color will match the color of the hair depending on how I'm feeling. And then later on in the piece, on a whole nother layer, that's when I add highlights onto the eyeballs. So you can get really funky and crazy with highlights. Sometimes I do little circles or little stars. I even have a piece that I did a while ago that I did smiley faces. So this is where I think you can just kind of have a lot of fun. And since it's Photoshop, you don't have to worry about anything being permanent. You just draw it, erase it if you don't like it, try again. It's very forgiving. When it comes to the shading and the shadows, I like to have a lot of fun with this part. I tend to just grab a color that's similar to the color palette that I'm using and then zoom way out and just draw in big chunky lines where I think the shadows should go. Once those are drawn in, then this is where I can have a lot of fun. I can go into, there's like a little button in the bottom right hand corner, if you can see it. It says FX, and that is where you have your special effects essentially. And that is where I change it to being a multiply layer. I also have been having a lot of fun with making the shadow have a gradient. So with this piece, I did a bluish or a pinkish bluish gradient on the shadow, and then I decreased the opacity a little bit so it wasn't so garish. And then I do the same exact thing with the background too, is I do a gradient by using that little FX button, and I decided to keep it pretty simple and just do a purple to white gradient. I just thought it helped make the character stand out more as opposed to the background be too bright and colorful. But yeah, then after that I can just go in and have some fun and add some details like little stars, and I give her some face jewelry and put some stars in the background. As you can see, some of those stars are glowing. That's something fun that I like to do from time to time by clicking that FX button and hitting outer glow. And you can play around with the settings for really all of those things. I really encourage you, if you do try to use Photoshop to draw or to paint, have fun, play around with what Photoshop has to offer. Hit all those little buttons, all those little knobs. If you mess something up, you can always start over, or you can always hit the undo button, which is a button I use a lot. So I hope that this was educational. I hope it was helpful. If anything, maybe just entertaining. So that's it. Don't forget, if you want a free print, sign up for or upgrade to Rainbow Crystal on my Patreon. I will put the link in the description below. That's all, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! So, no, that's not the first thing I start with. I always have a point, what am I trying to say? Speed draw of, oh no. Rainbow Crystal, oh my goodness gracious.